Today's episode of I Love Black People on Howard University Radio Voices on SiriusXM 141 is brought to you by The Global Green Book, a Black survival guide. The Global Green Book 2020, the Healthcare Edition, which identifies Black-friendly and Black-owned healthcare providers worldwide. A Black survival guide highlighting places across the globe for Black people. The Global Green Book, available on Amazon and iloveblackpeople.com.
Greetings, everyone. I have an incredible guest today, someone that I've known for years. He's actually a big brother and actually has been someone who's mentored me in much of my journey. Today, we have an incredible, I want to say, leader, servant, a servant leader, and a Howard alum, a fellow Howard alum, and someone who's done so many things on so many levels of the government sector for the greater good of our people. My brother, your brother, the good brother, Forrest Hayes. Thank you, Forrest, for joining us on I Love Black People today.
Well, Sinclair, thank you so much for having me this morning. And let me just say, I cannot start this broadcast without first acknowledging your achievements. I mean, I'm just looking at my brother's got a radio show, and, I'm just well aware and so awestruck by all the great work you're doing with iloveblackpeople.com. I mean, you know that the T-shirts were a big hit out here in Northern Virginia, and still got people asking me, where can I get some more? So, thank you for everything you're doing for our nation and for the democracy that we're all trying to protect.
Humbly. And I would be remiss if I didn't even acknowledge some of the things that you've been doing currently. You're appointed to the Virginia Housing Commission by the governor, which I think is pretty outstanding, as well as the fact that you're the first African-American to be serving chair of the Loudoun County, Virginia Planning Commission. And that's so often when we talk about the global Black agenda and what roles we're playing, you're actually where the rubber meets the road, where actually these policies are being developed. So it's important that we acknowledge our political maturity in being in these areas that you've been in. And again, from being chief of staff on Capitol Hill, being a staffer. I mean, I remember you were teaching me back in the day, so often a lot of the Black staffers don't get to serve on committees. And the fact that you've served on subcommittees and committees where the policies actually are derived and not, I won't say just constituent services. Constituent services is important, but the policies are made at the committee levels. And oftentimes, we need to make sure we have key people in those areas to make sure that when things get written, they're written with our interests and the interests of the public that we serve. I think it's important to give the context of this because the focus of this show is to celebrate something that's just simply amazing and may have been lost in so much of this news cycle. But our fellow Howard alum, of course, y'all know I transferred from Tuskegee to Howard. And thank you as a transfer, for all the good brothers. I think your chapter, Bloody Z chapter, just celebrated, was it 100 years anniversary?
100 years for Z chapter. And let me just say, Z chapters had a strong and rich tradition of not being very hospitable to transfer brothers. But you broke the mold and tried a new territory in that regard. We literally had a straw poll. So you know what? That guy's great. Let's just go ahead and let him in.
Look, I appreciate it. Let me just say, I was coming. I think we set up a good opportunity with good brother Pat Lusaka. So I'm humbled by all that I've been able to be a part of, and I wouldn't be who I am today without just the love and support so many brothers have given me from your chapter, and of course, Big Money Boxing, Beta Nu, and Big G, the Lighthouse. I definitely appreciate that. And I think that even gives us context as Black men talking about Kamala Harris and talking about what it means and to have the first Black woman vice president. And, so much of the conversation has been overwhelmed by these white supremacists and the shenanigans that are going on and have been going on, brought to light more so over the last week in regards to the Capitol. But I just don't think we need to seize this moment to make sure we acknowledge our achievements and to make sure that we claim, not only we claim them, but we're the ones who create the narrative of those achievements. And I think the origin stories or the discussions around our good sister Kamala Harris, and I probably the listeners are like, why are they talking about these different organizations? So literally, we're members of a college fraternity, and that college fraternity is Kappa Alpha Psi. And Kamala, is a Kappa sweetheart, and which is like an auxiliary to the college fraternity on the college campus. And with all of the background that you have for us in politics, and again, I think we're going to have you on for multiple shows. Wanted us because you got me from the Indiana level, Gary, city, administrator type work, and then the stuff that you've done on the Hill, the stuff you're doing in Virginia, DC. I think when it comes to policy making and from the executive to the legislative, administering a government, they can probably hire you to be president of somebody's country. But let's talk about Kamala. We're rooting as Black men, we're rooting for our sister. Give us some of that context of the early days so that the listeners can really get an understanding of Kamala in a way that you so often don't hear on the mainstream.
Well, I think about the fact that in many ways, particularly for Black people, Howard University is a microcosm of the community at large. Even starting with you, I think about, your early days at Howard, and you just burst onto the scene with all your personality. But more importantly, you had a sense of service and community and wanting to have a positive impact on the university platform. And I see you now, you've moved on to, city and municipal communities, and now you're moving and operating with the best intentions on a global platform. And so that's where it starts, and that's where it grows, and that's where the seeds are planted. My good friend Kamala is no different in that regard. I think that at this point, this international platform that she is ascending to when she's inaugurated next week gives us an opportunity to show off to the balance of the world, where HBCU student, can ascend to. And, they're no different than anyone else except for the tenacity and the hunger to have an impact on society is what I think is the difference maker. And I'll give you a few anecdotes about Kamala. Here's one of the things that she and I love to talk about, and one of the things that probably aren't as well recognized. But the first elected position that Kamala ever held in her life was when she was elected president of my freshman class, our freshman class at Howard University. And
yeah. But I thought you were about to give me like some county in California. I thought you were about to tell me about some like commission position. Break it on down. No, break it on down, big brother.
I'm trying to give it to you 100%, man.
Give me 100 uncut.
She's always been who she's always been, and she's always been who she is today. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Oh, no, freshman year?
Freshman year. Kamala will tell you, we held a fundraiser for her in D.C. when she was running for the United States Senate not too long ago. And I was just humbled, and I had actually forgotten, we're all getting older. But Kamala reminded me in front of several members of Congress, the mayor of Washington, D.C., and just an assembled cast, that she and I actually met in the line registering for class for our first semester at Howard, freshman year in August, getting ready to be college students. Just normal, hey, my name is Forrest, my name is Kamala, where are you from? I'm from here. And then, soon it was time to elect officers for freshman year. And, nobody really knew each other, but she had just been so, magnanimous, people just really enamored with her personality, and she won, hands down. And she loves to point out that, from that very humble beginning as president of the Howard freshman class.
Yeah, those are building blocks. I mean, that's probably set the trajectory. Go ahead, dude. That's awesome.
And I don't have to tell you now, that's a tough crowd.
That's a tough crowd. Look, teach on that. Like, people don't, to master your own generation, to master the people who look like you, who act like you, looking at you like, who do you think you are? That's tough. To convince those folks who are most like you to say that you should be the one that's in charge and leading them, that is, I mean, with a teenage, understanding of the world, hell, as a grown understanding of the world, that's a tough day. Woo! Break it down.
So the point I'm making is that, for everyone who can hear this broadcast, sincerely, the person that you see on television today, the person that you're going to see raise her right hand and take the oath of office next week to be the first female, the first Black and Asian Indian female to ever hold the position of Vice President of the United States of America, is the same person I met at Howard University some 30 years ago. Now, of course, she's much more politically savvy. She's definitely learned her craft. I mean, because she's a person that, yes, her first elected role in a government sense was as district attorney for San Francisco County in northern San Francisco. Again, not an easy crowd to please.
Go ahead. But look, keep us at Howard. Though. I want, so often you're going to hear people talk about San Francisco. They're going to talk about, all the lawyer stuff, which I think is very relevant. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it gives us a complete picture. And I think so many things that we have done generationally involves a level of context. And what it takes to get where we are sometimes gets lost for the actual roles we're currently in, because it does take us a little different. And at Howard, are we going to be able to get anything for the Kappa Sweetheart part? I mean, I said it again. I love the freshman piece, the freshman president. I think that's like a high bar. Am I going to get any Kappa Sweetheart? Or if I'm not, then we can go, we can just do the pivot. I'll pivot with you.
You're going to get it. And let me just tell you, again, it's remarkable. But if Kamala starts to talk about her days at Howard, we affectionately call that being on the yard. And so she talks about her years on the yard. She's also a member, this is very well known now, of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, our entire beautiful. Matter of fact, they celebrated their anniversary on yesterday. And so, she's a member of that. But, if you ask her about you, the first thing she says is not that I'm an AKA. First thing she says, well, I'm a Kappa sweetheart, a Z chapter sweetheart, which is not the normal thing. Most sisters that were sweethearts, after they pledged AKA or Delta or something, or, Phi Sigma Theta, whatever they pledge, now that becomes their identity. Kamala never left brothers behind.
Yeah, I did. When I met her, if I knew Forrest Hayes, because she said she was a sweetheart. And I said, wait a minute, now you was a sweetheart, you're always a sweetheart. And she laughed. And I think that context of being there supporting, the young brothers on campus, I think, again, going back to service, going back to being a part of our community in a substantive way, and having to also support our sisters, sweetheart, in that context early on, and supporting the young Black men on Howard's campus. I mean, what was that like?
Well, the thing about it is Kamala became a Kappa sweetheart when we were in our freshman year. And, she was really dedicated. So, there were a couple dozen Kappa sweethearts. But when I think back, the ones who really stood out was Kamala and her best friend, Karen Gibbs. I just remembered all the freshman guys being enamored and jealous of the Kappas. I hadn't pledged yet, but, jealous of the Kappas having so much attention from those beautiful sisters. Now, here's another thing I want to make a connection that really goes to the heart of Kamala's personality. Before we graduated, Karen Gibbs had a child, Christopher, and Kamala is Christopher's godmother. Today, Kamala will tell you that Karen is her best friend. So it means it doesn't matter where you go, who you meet, how popular, how famous you become. She
Good.
is still grounded in the people that she met freshman year in the dormitory or on the yard. And still today, people like Karen Gibb, Val Pippin, Melanie Wilcox are her best friends. And I think that says a lot about a person's personality and integrity. And just to be clear, she was one of the flyest Kappa sweethearts of all time. And mostly not because of anything, I can't think of anything flamboyant that she did. It's more just being the decent person who really had the brothers back and would do anything she could to help highlight Kappa Alpha Psi and to help, be a credit to the organization. And I think that is most appropriately displayed when she 30 years later, on the eve of becoming the first vice president, will proudly tell you at any time, any place, oh, I'm a Kappa sweetheart.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think even tying it on of these relationships and consider, it's hard. In our 50s, we are the things that you value. You're going to make some money, you're going to lose some money, jobs come and go. But these relationships end up being probably some of the most critical, valuable things that you acquire in life. It's not how many houses, how many cars, how many watches. It really is the quality of these relationships. And as we get older, I had someone say, don't wait till you go to someone's memorial and they're reading off, people's obituaries and talking about in the eulogy how amazing people are. We need to do more to talk about how many are while we're alive, while we're here and homecoming where we're having some drinks, but literally daily basis. I think even connecting through this XM radio show, it's been one of those things where connecting with the people that have made a difference in your life and relationships. And as you reflect on Kamala, being able to take that reflection and making sure that we're clear that these relationships are meaningful. And they're not meaningful because of the office people hold, but because of the impact that they've had on our and what the and Maya Angelou, she said, you don't remember what people necessarily always say. You don't always remember what they do, but you remember how they make you feel. And just even listening to you now talk about Kamala and with the anecdotal stories, it really speaks to an impression being left on how you feel. And I think our stories and so often are just value of our feelings as a community matter. And we have to be the ones to ensure that they're shared and that they're protected and they're supported. And I think as we see Kamala and with again, I think this is a good segue to something I don't hear enough of us talk about. But, as the first Black woman, and of course, her background, her mom being from India, but we're clear, in America and in the world, we know what it means when we say Black and we know how big that is. Context of that. What do you see to be supportive? I know, again, you've been enough people accountable. And people have talked about, we love Obama and at first, we often hear people talking about, what do tangibles, which are very real. We don't get into politics just to, for pageantry or just for symbol. How can we be supportive of Kamala and at the same time make sure that she's given the support to take care of a Black agenda? And I say that meaning I'm not even saying people of color. I'm talking about like stuff like reparations, DC statehood, things that are probably going to be hard, that the capital, most of the people are still majority white males, historically have shown a certain in how politics have gone. It would take a difference maker to make that happen. With a lot of support, though. You can't go out, being out there by yourself ain't it. We got to do. What do you think of those things?
Well, you know what, Sinclair, I think that is an excellent topic for us to explore. I like to say that politics is not a spectator sport. And you alluded to that in your question because, we should see Kamala for what she really is a leader. However, the idea that we're going to sit back and watch the Kamala show for the next 4 years is a failed and a false premise. Black people have to really embrace not the concept, but the fact that political change is all about all of us being the best that we can be in terms of supporting our leaders in an active way. That means that as soon to be President Biden and soon to be Vice President Harris embark on some of the monumental legislative achievements and operational challenges around distributing the vaccines and trying to rebuild our small business infrastructure, to build infrastructure in America, to create jobs, that Black people have to be tuned in and paying attention to these issues and thinking about ways that they can contribute, because everybody can do something. Some people can provide the people power behind these initiatives by writing in. There's an opportunity to speak out, marching, responding to polls. Don't just hang up the phone if somebody calls you. You need to register your voice in support or provide advice. Those of us who have the interest and the ability, run for office. You can make a difference on your local school board, because that seat is a seat that then won't go to someone who doesn't see the world the way we do. And most importantly, is not aligned with the vision and the ideals that are being set by the new administration. I think also, folks have to realize that being in office, we need to keep their support team in office as well. Now, the only reason that the Biden Harris administration is going to be able to do a lot of the things that we know that they're capable of bringing to America and to Black people in particular is because we're fortunate enough to win the 2 Senate seats in Georgia. Now, guess what? There'll be some senators up for election in 2 years. So that means we got to support whoever that might be with our dollars and our feet. I'm going to say that one more time. Dollars and feet. Black people got to understand good government is dependent upon your investment in it. And, knocking on doors is great. Volunteering is great. One would argue that's more important than the money, but the money is a factor. And so I think we have to really come to a place where we understand the entire scope of what politics and government, how it's structured, and do everything we can to be a platform and a foundation on which Kamala can show us everything that she has to offer. But, let's be clear.
I think the point you're making is very sound. We're going to have to be engaged. We can't, unlike what I think sometimes happened with Obama, where we were just so amazed and so we thought that was enough. We're going to have to keep supporting and keep pushing for our agendas. And again, I Love Black People, this show is really to focus on the global Black agenda and making sure that, innovative ways that we can actually make that happen. And of course, it's pretty innovative in the United States of America to have a Black woman from Howard University become vice president. And with that being said, it's just a piece of the puzzle. We have to be the rest of it. And I think as we come to the time to wrap up, I just want to say, just the context that you've given to this whole vision, that we must celebrate these victories. And one of them is definitely having someone like Kamala, who's a part of our, family, and who's someone who's really made it through. We never talk about all it took to come of age in the era that we've come in, from crack cocaine epidemics and AIDS and all the things that we've made it through as a generation. For us to be at this moment where we can celebrate a friend who's actually made it to a pinnacle position that's pivotal in making decisions that will impact not just us, but for our generations to come. We got about 30 seconds left. Do you have any last comments? And for us, I got to have you back on just to talk about some of these ongoing issues. I mean, You have a wealth of experience on the Hill. You know, we probably need you to talk about some of the shenanigans with this that happened on the Hill recently, as well as the impeachment. But what do you have to say about it? Because I know you're doing a lot of work in Virginia, which went blue. Thank you for helping that go blue. What would you like to close with?
You know, I would just say that, you know, again, God bless Kamala Harris, soon to be Vice President Kamala Harris. And I am committed, and I invite, you know, all the people within our earshot to join you and I in doing everything and doing our level best for as long as we possibly can, to do all we can to help her to be as successful as she can, to uplift our people. This is a golden opportunity. I'm just so happy to be alive now and to be a part of this. And I think it's going to be the best 4 years that America's ever seen. And let's make sure that Black folks are involved. I love your show. ILoveBlackPeople.com. What could be better? Congratulations to you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right. Well, thank you. And Noop, I couldn't be me without you. So I always try to wrap it up with I am because we are. Thank you so much, Big Brother Forrest, for joining us today. And we'll call that a wrap. And thank all y'all for joining.
Today's episode of I Love Black People on Howard University Radio Voices on SiriusXM 141 is brought to you by The Global Green Book, a Black survival guide. The Global Green Book 2020, the Healthcare Edition, which identifies Black-friendly and Black-owned healthcare providers worldwide. A Black survival guide highlighting places across the globe for Black people. The Global Green Book, available on Amazon and iloveblackpeople.com.